So, it's week 10 and it's Barclays Premier League. Early fixture on Friday evening. It brought together Crystal Palace at home to Newcastle. Now, both sides have had sort of up and down seasons so far, but are way off the relegation zone, which probably pleases both managers. Let's get into the highlights. Just to note that Zaha missing a game for Palace because of his COVID status, and Shelvey was back in for Newcastle, as was Callum Wilson. But still no De Bruyne. He's been out all season, really. 8 minutes, a half chance for Joe Linton, but it went high and wide. In fact, this game was had quite a lot of contributions from the Brazilian, and more of that a bit later. First real chance for Palace on 24 minutes was Eze, and it forced a save from Darlow, who was relatively comfortable. The asset mentioned Shelvey found Almiron on 40 minutes. Great crossfield ball, and Almiron fed the ball across the box, and Lewis managed to get a shot away, but it was pretty easy for Guaita. Just before the half, a slight defensive mix-up let in Linton again, but his effort was poor. So goalless at the break then. Second half, an early corner for Townsend found Cahill, but his header went over. 66 minutes, Callum Wilson headed, very close from a Manquinho cross. And then that Linton popped up again on 71, but he just couldn't get a touch to a fine cross. 78 minutes, Ritchie free kick, went through the wall, but Guaita held on. And Benteke came on, and he had an early header that forced a low save by Darlow. Fernandes blocked the effort that followed from Coyote, not Coyote, never mind. 84 minutes, Palace, a Van Arnold cross this time, just failed to get a connection from Bashwi, who'd come on as a sub. And it was looking like we might end up at a goalless draw. But then on 86 minutes, a breakaway, Linton, some neat touch, found Carroll Wilson, and Wilson's effort was low, and it found the target, and it going through Guaita's legs. So Newcastle looked like they'd stolen it. And then on 89 minutes, another counter-attack put in Linton. This time he strode into the penalty area and created a yard of space. His effort was a pretty poor one, but it managed to get a great deflection of Cahill and went wide of Guaita. And Newcastle were now definitely home and dry. They got their second, and that's how it finished. Bruce was delighted. Hodgson less so. He was quite critical of his side, saying that they really need to be much sharper in the final third. But for Joe Linton, a personal triumph, really. He set one up and scored one. So final score then at Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace 0, Newcastle 2. So it's on to Saturday's fixtures. The early kickoff was at the Amex, Brighton against Liverpool. Quite a lot of talking points about this. Klopp was not at all happy with the early start after the efforts in midweek in the Champions League. But results would suggest that Liverpool performed pretty well on an early Saturday start. Of course, the rest of the world have been showing their thoughts and views about the passing of Diego Maradona, and we had a minute's silence before all matches so we could reflect on this genius. And so that followed, And team news, well, it has to be said that Liverpool's back line is really decimated. They had actually Urbino in defence alongside Phillips, and Williams was at right back. The only regular was Robertson at left, and Milner was in midfield, and Menino, the Japanese, was in midfield with him. Surprisingly, Mane on the bench, Jota up front with Salah and Firmino. For Brighton, Lallana got a slight groin problem, so he was on the bench, but Welbeck and Mopé up front. Let's get to the action, shall we? Otherwise you'll probably fall asleep. Finally, Henderson on the bench for the Reds. He's coming back from an injury. Oh, and no Lamptey for Brighton, serving the suspension for that red. So 2 minutes, a lovely ball by Fabinho found Salah, but his effort was blasted wide. Very high press from Liverpool, so they were suspect of that ball over the top or through the middle. And 9 minutes, Mopé put Connolly through, and one-on-one with Alisson, he managed to pull his effort wide of the target. It was a great opportunity. 18 minutes, again, a bit of a fracas between Connolly and Williams. Problem was it's inside the box. Referee awarded a penalty. Mopé stepped up, and although he was 2 from 2, for only he will know how he managed to place his ball wide of the goal. And not long after that, he was substituted for an apparent problem with his hamstring, but I was a bit suspect of that. He looked thoroughly disgusted with coming off. The two at the back for Liverpool were looking pretty vulnerable, it has to be said. Trossard came on and he shot wide of Alisson's left edge, and Brighton was certainly having the better of it. Then 33 minutes, breakaway by Liverpool, which they do so well, and Salah managed to outpace the defenders, dip the ball over Ryan, looked a clear goal, but VAR chalked it off because Salah was slightly offside, and of course Klopp wasn't too pleased with that. Brighton, better of things really, but we got to the break and it was goalless. So into the second half, Anderson replaced Williams, so Milner went to right back, and it looked like it was working. Although a great run by Welbeck on 53 minutes, he cut inside the fullback, but it was relatively comfortable for Alisson. On 59 minutes now, some nice work on the left. Jota was in the centre, and what an accomplished striker he is. There was a neat interchange between Robertson and Salah set up Jota, and he took his time and he sort of created a yard of space in the box and then slid it into the corner. Great goal, great finish, 1-0 Liverpool. A little bit later, Salah was subbed along with Connolly, and they both showed their real anger at that decision. Unlike Salah, I've not seen him like that, but Mane came on, and Lallana had to leave the pitch as well. A reoccurrence of that groin strain. He only played 10 minutes as a sub. March, 74 minutes, a fairly strong shot, but again Alisson was good enough. And March again on 80 minutes, great cross from the byline that caused panic in Liverpool's defence, and Robson managed to scoop the ball over to relieve the danger. Then on 82 minutes, a really nice piece of play again by Robertson, and his free kick found Mane, who headed it home, but again ruled out Marnie was slightly offside, so it remained 1-0. And then we were approaching the final stages, and there was a very innocuous challenge in Liverpool's penalty area involving Welbeck and Robertson. Welbeck got his toe to the ball and fell down. Play continued, and it went on for some time. And once it had gone out of play, the referee then went back for the incident in the box, and it became evident that Robertson had kicked Welbeck on the sole of his foot. And once VAR got its mitts on it, it looked inevitably to be a penalty, and it was awarded. And of course, Klopp got even more vociferous with the fourth official, but it didn't matter a hoot because Gross stepped up and he slid the ball down the centre, and that was the equaliser. And so Liverpool had to be content with a point. They'd scored 3 goals, but only one of them had counted, and more injuries because Milner had to go off. So things are looking pretty desperate for Liverpool, even though they went to the top with this draw. Final score then, Amex, Brighton 1, Liverpool 1. Well, we're at the Etihad, and it's Manchester City against Burnley. Burnley must be fearing the worst. The last 3 occasions that they'd visited this ground, they'd been pummeled 5-0 consecutively. So they were hoping possibly for better things today, but they're right down near the bottom. And they haven't won at Manchester City since 1963. So no one was giving them much hope here. Let's have a look at the team news. Walker, De Bruyne and Mahrez were back in the starting lineup after Champions League efforts. And Stones, who played against Atalanta, he was retained at centre back. For Burnley, they had an important change in goal. Peacock Farrell in for the injured Pope, who'd injured himself in the fixture at the beginning of the week, making a save. Didn't take long for City to start to get those worrying thoughts in the Burnley camp. He managed to get the ball fed to him, and he swept inside his defender as he does and hit the corner for 1-0. Then we had another a piece of audacious play from City. Walker took a throw very, very quickly and caught Taylor, the defender, napping, and it fell to Mahrez, and he managed again to create that little bit of space on his left foot, and it was 2-0. And so it was looking ominous, it has to be said. And then a little bit later, Jesus' header hit Torres and went in, but that one was chalked off for offside. If it hadn't hit Torres, it would have been free. Mattered for little though, because just before the break, Mendy, arriving at the back stick, hit the ball on the volley after a delightful ball by Kevin De Bruyne, and it hit the corner, and that was 3-0. That was the half-time score. An early shot in the second half from Rodriguez brought some life to Edison, but 66 minutes, Torres managed to get there 4, and Mahrez was involved in setting this one up along with Walker on the right, and it's 4-0 to City. 69 minutes, Foden had come on as a substitute, and his left foot cross managed to find Mahrez, and Mahrez an unlikely header of a ball, but he got his head to this one, and it sailed into the net, and that, of course, was his hat-trick. And talk about history repeating itself. The score now was Manchester City 5, Burnley 0. And of course, I told you that at the start of this roundup that Manchester City had won the last 3 games at home to Burnley by 5-0. It could have been worse, but the goalkeeper came to their rescue. But that's how it finished. Amazingly, the 4th 5-0 in a row for Manchester City. Guardiola, of course, happy that the goals were flying in again. Dyche, well, he basically said that if you give the ball away like we did, you're going to get hammered by a team like Man City. And he was absolutely correct. So final score then at the Etihad, Manchester City 5, Burnley 0. So it's Goodison Park, Everton at home to Leeds. It has to be said that this match was full of goalmouth action. It was end-to-end stuff. Both teams were really playing attacking football. Goalkeepers were in action throughout. And I found it a little bit difficult to keep pace with the number of efforts on target and denied by various means, whether it be saves by keepers, blocked by defenders, or just deflections. But I'm going to have a go. Meslier denied Doucouré on 6 minutes, and then Klich managed to feed Rafinha. He's a new signing for Leeds, and he was very impressive. And his pass found Harrison, whose chip went just wide. A little later, Pickford into the action managed to deny Bamford as he tried to rifle it home on the penalty spot. And then up the other end, James had a nice effort, but it was ruled offside. 25 minutes, Pickford again denying with a save, and there was also a clearance off the line in the same move. And then Richarlison down the other end, he managed to head in from a corner, but the offside flag again denied him. And Harrison hit a post before the interval, and that was the extent of my observations of an action-packed first half. However, no goals. Into the second half then, and Bamford flicked home from a nice piece of work from Alioski, but that was chalked off for the 3rd offside. But eventually we got a goal that counted, and it was Rafinha shot from just outside the box, and it was a neat effort, went in the corner, and Pickford was beaten. So Leeds had gone 1 up. The pace still was relentless, but in the end, that was the only goal that counted. A tremendous game of football, really, but some certain worries for Ancelotti. His defence looks too porous to me. But anyway, Bielsa was absolutely delighted, and the final score then at Goodison, Everton 0, Leeds United 1. The last game on Saturday was a bottom of the table clash, involved the newly promoted West Brom, who are 3rd from bottom, against rock bottom Sheffield United. I saw brief highlights of this. Robertson was in West Brom's lineup, and he last season played for Sheffield United. And so a little bit of needle there. I have to say, the early running was made by the Blades, and they looked sprightly, even though they've lost 8 out of 9. But it was Gallagher who opened the scoring for West Brom, which was a neat shot from a corner, and that put the Baggies up 1-0. Johnson saved from a header, and Bullock effort was around to prevent Grant doubling West Brom's lead. 1-0 at the break to West Brom, and it all got very, very frantic in the second half by both sides. Lots of efforts, but not too many what I would consider to be great attempts. Also, goalkeepers, Johnson denied McBurney, Brewster, their record silent, he forced a save from the keeper, and it was generally very frustrating because the chances were there, but they weren't put away. So basically, we got to the final. Old Mousset managed to put over probably the best chance in the last minute from a yard out, and so that left the Blades now in absolute dire straits. They've lost 9 out of 10. Of course, Bilic was more than happy to have secured 3 points against one of his relegation rivals. Wilder was basically pointing out that with the number of chances that his side have got, they should have won comfortably, but the fact of the matter is they've lost. And he didn't really say it, but I sensed he was feeling that if we can't get our act together against this lot, we're doomed. And I'm inclined to agree with that. So final score at the Hawthorns then, West Brom 1, Sheffield United 0.